Welcome back, folks. Most of us never give insects a second thought except when they're bugging us. Get that?
Get it? Yeah.
How do you know when to reach for that can of bug spray and when to let the good insects go? Well, here to educate us, Dr. Chris Christensen. He's the owner and operator of Truly Nolen Pest Control of Lexington. And Chris, we appreciate you being here, sir. Thank you for coming in.
Very good.
So we want to talk about good insects because in a lot of folks' minds there's no such thing, but that is simply not the case.
Well, absolutely not. We've got a few specimens here, and right here is one of the most valuable insects in the world. That's the honeybee.
Oh, yes. Michael mentioned the bee.
Absolutely. Really? The most important pollinator that we have in agricultural crops. And, you know, all our tree fruits, most of our vegetables and so on are pollinated. Plus, you get the added benefit. These things make wax, and they also make honey.
Yes.
And they're about the only insect that makes commercial amounts of honey. And so one of the things that was mentioned was almonds are pollinated by bees. And when the almond crop's being pollinated in California, just about every commercial beehive in the United States is in that valley.
Wow.
It's that important. We've got some other important...
We can put up with a few stings then for all that the bee gives us.
Well, absolutely. And, you know, our bees are having some trouble right now. And if we lose that pollination, it's going to be very, very expensive. I think some estimates have been like $15 billion. Quite frankly, I think it'll be more than that. If you have to hand-pollinate everything, forget it. And here's one that you never think about, but this is the blowfly. And, of course, blowflies clean up dead animals along the road and stuff. And if it wasn't for blowflies, we'd be knee-deep in dead groundhogs. But these big maggots are also used in surgery. They call it maggot therapy. And things like diabetic gangrene, when people's feet start rotting. These maggots can be sterilized and put in that wound, and they will clean that wound up and help it to heal. Really amazing. Actually, Napoleon's surgeon figured that out way back in the...
Little history
back when, and he said he was finding that more wounded soldiers that were maggot infested were surviving better than those that got to the hospital.
Interesting.
So and then one you never think about is the dung beetle. And here's a variety of different dung beetles that we have in central Kentucky. Some of them quite beautiful. When I was working on my master's degree at Purdue, I worked on a feces thesis. I worked on some dung beetles that ate cattle manure. And these things are so important in reducing the manure of ruminants like cattle back to the soil. And without that, you end up with all these little pie plates out in the pasture. And that actually was a problem in Australia because the Australians imported cattle, but they didn't import the insect complex that went with the manure. And they actually had to have a special program to import dung beetles and certain flies because their pastures were being covered with cattle manure.
Well, Chris, this has been fascinating, and there's been a lot of history in here as well, which I certainly appreciate. And I guess the overarching theme here is that everyone's got a job to do, including all of these fellows. So we appreciate the information. We want to let folks know about Truly Nolen Pest Control as well. Contact them there on the screen, or check out that website for more information.
Great.
And you guys do what you do for the community, which we certainly appreciate. And thanks for this info, Chris.
Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure having you in.
Enjoyable.